Kyrie Irving is out for the season. Another nightmare piled on to Dallas's nightmare year. LeBron's comments have sparked some seriously unserious face of the league discourse, and NBA nicknames are having a meme renaissance. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like if you are new, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. We are back with Newsday Tuesday. It has been quite a minute since we've done this series just because the news has been so rapid fire and major that it just warrants single video long reactions, but there has been an accumulation of smaller stories that we have not managed to tackle on this channel over the last couple of months, so we're going to be covering some of the older ones as well as the more recent stuff. Now, as we mentioned, Kyrie Irving has torn his ACL. Unfortunately, he was pretty much left stranded with the Dallas Mavericks ever since Luka was traded. Anthony Davis played one game and then was out, and since then, Kyrie has had to bear a much larger load on the offensive end to compensate for how little shot creation there is on the roster besides for him. And that extra strain has unfortunately had serious side effects because in the fourth quarter against the Sacramento Kings the other day on a drive, he slipped and tore his ACL, which is going to be keeping him out for the remainder of this season, and he'll be sidelined for a very large significant of next season as well. It kind of depends because ACL recoveries can vary. You know, sometimes it depends on the severity of the tear. It also seems like the technology has dramatically improved in terms of rehabilitating injuries like that. Like if Derrick Rose tore his ACL in 2024 instead of 2011, he probably would still have been a star player after all of that. But seems like this is a quote from Jason Kidd. It seems like every time we get close to getting somebody back, someone goes down. Tonight, where Hardy and Kai go down, so we're running out of bodies here. The Mavericks are also, of course, down AD, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Caleb Martin, and Jaden Hardy. So, yeah. Mavericks nightmare season is only becoming more of a nightmare. I have a third channel video, Little Rusty Buckets, that is going over this in more detail, just the overall scope of the Dallas Mavericks from here. So if you want to get my more extended thoughts on Kyrie's injury, go ahead and check out that video. All right, we're doing the face of the league discourse shit again, which has been pretty mind-numbingly annoying lately, but we're still going to do it because the king himself has decided to speak up, the guy who has been the face of the league for the last 20 fucking years. So when asked post-game about Anthony Edwards, who recently made headlines over the NBA's face of the league conversation, he said, "Why do you want to be the face of the league when all the people that cover our game and talk about our game on a day-to-day basis shit on everybody? Obviously, I didn't ask for it. I feel ant. I understand. This is a weird energy when it comes to that." These comments pissed off Stephen A. Smith, and he did just a Hall of Fame textbook example of how to miss the point. Now, a lot of the contentious aspect of this was how LeBron claimed that he did not ask for it. We're getting caught up a lot on some of the logistics of it, on what he's even saying specifically. Yes, it is right to say that LeBron asked to be the face of the league. It's very clear that he leaned into that idea, the chosen one stuff, all of that. Like, yes, LeBron wanted to be the face of the NBA. However, when LeBron signed up to be the face of the league in 2003, we were in a very different spot as a society in America back then than we are right now. The consequences of being the most forward-facing guy in the NBA in 2003 is far less significant than that of today because of the social media era. The amount of scrutiny, the amount of reactionary stuff to any time a player has a bad game, all of that stuff is very much this era. Pre 2003, back when LeBron was watching Michael Jordan be the face of the league, he was able to see what that looked like, and Jordan still managed to have a private life. There was very little known about what his world was beyond basketball and gambling occasionally. Meanwhile, like imagine when Jordan got in trouble for gambling, he had been doing that shit basically his entire fucking career. He made it until like 1993 before he had any trouble in that realm, which goes to show you how little scrutiny. Like, you didn't have TMZ following him around all the time. You didn't have people reporting about his son smoking a joint, like that. All of that shit, the modern media cycle, it is incomparable to what LeBron thought he was signing up for. So yes, LeBron wanted to be the face of the league. Would he have wanted that and been willing to accept that baggage had he known what was in front of him? I don't know. Maybe he would still say yes. Wouldn't surprise me if he would, but I would understand if he was a little bit more hesitant knowing what he knows now versus what he knew when he was 19. The dumbest fucking thing that came out of this entire ordeal, shout out to Stephen A. He didn't say the dumbest thing about this. Brian Windhorst, who in my experience is actually usually fairly reasonable, said, well, LeBron signed a $90 million deal with Nike when he joined the NBA. So clearly he wanted to associate himself with Michael Jordan. He wore the number 23 and had a Nike deal. That means he was directly trying to copy the iconography of Michael Jordan. Now, the reason why LeBron wore number 23 is, guess what? He fucking likes Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was his favorite player, his second favorite to like Allen Iverson. So he idolized him and wore his number. It wasn't a trying to rip his iconography. That was just simply the thought process. Most people wear, maybe not most people, but a lot of people wear the jersey number they wear because some other player they liked wore that jersey number. He's not allowed to do that just because he's the face of the league. But moreover, he's 19 fucking years old and he's mostly lived in poverty. Obviously, there's no secret that LeBron was driving around like $100,000 car before he was even in the NBA. So like there were people lining his pockets before he was in the league, but he did grow up in poverty, and the money that he had pre-NBA is not even comparable at all to the money that he had after the NBA. He's a fucking poor kid who grew up in poverty, who has just had a $90 million contract put in front of him. Do you think he was thinking as he was signing that contract, wow, I really am like Mike? Or do you think he was a 19-year-old from a poor background who saw $90 million in front of him and signed the fucking contract? Absolutely bonkers that Brian Windhorst said that. But here is what Stephen A. Smith had to add. When you put on a crown, put on a crown on your head, there's criticism that comes with it. If he doesn't like the comparison to MJ, too damn bad. We're not on your payroll, and we're not there just to praise you. I think comparison is the thief of joy, is the way I believe that expression works. I don't think you're supposed to stutter when you say it, but that is the expression. Not that there's stuff inherently wrong with a LeBron versus Mike thing, but if being the face of the league means constantly being under the largest microscope possible, constantly being compared to stuff that some bald guy did 40 years ago, like, it is an unwinnable situation. So most NBA players are not going to sign up for an unwinnable situation. Instead, they're going to still cash out and make a shitload of money while not having the spotlight on them to such a degree that they are the largest punching bag in the league. LeBron, for the longest time, was the most hated athlete in the world. That was in large part, of course, due to the decision, but even before that, he was one of the most hated, and after that, he has remained that, even if he has well made up for the decision beyond that, bringing a title to Cleveland and so on. So I completely understand where LeBron's coming from. I think he is right. And people who are acting like what LeBron signed up for in 2023 is what he got is extremely disingenuous. And I cannot emphasize enough, I try to every time this type of conversation comes up, the social media era of the NBA makes this shit harder than it used to be. Dealing with public perception. There is a forum for your criticism towards you to be seen in mass. There aren't people talking about you in barbershops and shit behind your back, and that's just a conversation between them. No, there are tweets that'll get 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 likes talking about how much of a bum you are, and you have to look and see that hundreds of thousands of people think you suck. Like, so many older generation people who do not understand the age of social media look at that and go, oh, what are you getting cyberbullied? Just close your computer. But that's not really how it works. If you even slightly get a tacit endorsement that thousands and thousands of people hate you for shit that is not even really in your control, that is really hard to deal with emotionally. People's brains are not meant to take in that kind of information. We're not built for the technology that we have around us. And not wanting to be a part of that nightmare is about as reasonable of a thing as I could possibly expect. Victor Wembanyama gets hurt. Obviously, this happened a good bit ago, but we still want to talk about the implications of it. The Spurs have expressed optimism that he will be ready for next season and should not have any ill effects long term. With someone his size, this is especially good news. Studies have shown that height is associated with a higher risk for blood clots. That's not good for me. Few people on the planet are as tall as Wemby. Yeah, this also leaves the Defensive Player of the Year race wide open. I am personally leaning Evan Mobley. Jaren Jackson Jr. also has a very good case, but I think the award should go to A, someone who hasn't won it before, but also B, a guy who's just more reflective of the narrative of the season at large. Even though Jaren's been good in Memphis, it's kind of been a quiet aspect of the league, which is maybe a little unfair to him. But I don't give a fuck. I want Evan Mobley to win a DPOY award, especially the way I feel about this is Evan Mobley is a DPOY caliber player who may never have another opportunity to win the damn thing, because Victor Wembanyama might just dominate this award for the next decade. Like, I know voter fatigue is a thing, but Wemby could be the gap between him and the number 2 defender in the NBA. I genuinely think could be the largest we have seen maybe ever. So good chance he sweeps that award for like the next decade. Jaren already has his DPOY. I would rather Mobley get his before the window is closed. All of that said, big concerns initially upon the report of blood clots, because blood clots famously took Chris Bosh out, made him have to retire. Brandon Ingram had a similar issue back when he was still on the Lakers. There is Asar Thompson over in Detroit had some stuff. It varies how severe blood clots can be, but it's definitely a scary thing to hear about. It's in large part lower body stuff that blood clots are really terrifying. So the fact that he got this, it was in his right shoulder. That's a positive. So all good. It obviously sucks that we're not going to see Victor and the Spurs in the playoffs this year after, of course, the De'Aaron Fox deal. But I think that just gives them all the more ability to have a retool this offseason and then go into the next year super, super strong and be really ready to compete for a championship. I really think just one good offseason and some pretty good role player upgrades, and you've got yourself a title contender. Bobby Portis gets suspended for taking a banned substance, which was a painkiller, which to me was interesting because a painkiller, are the players supposed to feel pain? Is that a part of the grind? You have to deal with the pain? Because I don't really fuck with that, because it's not a performance enhancer so much as it is the pain of the performance reducer. So I guess that enhances your performance, but like, does taping up your knees, putting ice on your knees enhance your performance? Like, it's the same fucking general concept. This one's just in a pill form. Bobby says, I was dealing with an elbow injury and using an NBA approved medication for pain and inflammation. During that time, I made an honest mistake and took a pain-reducing anti-inflammatory pill that was not approved. I feel horrible and recognize that I'm responsible for what I put in my body. Wow, that's honestly a more mature response than I expected of Bobby Portis. I guess he is 30 years old now, but I remember him being very hot-headed, especially like punching Nikola Mirotic in practice and shit. Tramadol is probably banned because it can be addictive, as it's an opiate, not because it has any performance-enhancing properties. Okay, I mean, that's true, but has the NBA really historically cared if players had a pill problem? I guess they do. Rudy just said behind the camera that it is literally the weakest opiate. So that said, if you've ever had surgery and had an opiate, that shit feels dangerous. Every time I've had it like 2 different times where I had to take opiates and I was like, whoa, these could ruin my life so easily. I completely understand why people subject themselves to just making this their reality. So, potential opiate addiction is it's a serious thing, but it's not really a performance enhancer. I feel like a conversation would have been better than a 25-game suspension without pay. 25 games out of his contract, like that's over $1 million that he lost from a pill. That sucks. That sucks ass, dude. That's a huge deal. Wow. Yeah. Sucks for Bobby Portis, man. I don't know. I would have put up more of a fight than him. I wouldn't have just been like, I'm responsible for what I put in my body. I would have been like, fuck you. It's a goddamn pill. Don't take millions of my dollars. It's not even a performance enhancer. I just won't take it again. That's very much slap on the wrist worthy, especially considering how players who abuse their wives don't get suspensions. But don't take one pill that you're not supposed to. Then we're going to take millions of dollars out of your pocket. Then we're going to do that. Here are our NBA players of the week. Zach LaVine, after a rough start for the Sacramento Kings, has completely turned it around. I think he had a game where he went like 8 for 9 from outside, averaging 28.6 rebounds, 63% from 3 on a 3-0 record for the week. What?
Is that Stephen Curry Phoenix? That's a typo.
Yeah, Stephen Curry is not a Phoenix Sun. Whoops. Jalen Brunson winning player of the week for the East with 29, 5, and 6, also a 3-0 record. Some other nominees out west were Steph, SGA, and J-Dub, LeBron and Luka, and Shaden Sharp. Shout out my boy Shaden Sharp. In the East, it was Giannis, DeAndre Hunter. Crazy how well that deal's worked for them. Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Onyeka Okongwu, Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton. Shout out to the Indiana Pacers because they've been really, really good lately, and no one's really talking about it. For our players of the month, we got LeBron James over in the Western Conference, averaging 29.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 6.9 assists with a 10-2 record for the Lakers over the course of February. God damn! He's 40, bro! That's so 29, 10, and 7 for 10-2 record at this age, man. And I guarantee you his shooting splits are fucking great. He's over 40% from 3 in this stretch, I'm all but certain. God damn, LeBron. When are you gonna go away? I'm 25. I started watching you when I was 12. You were 27 then. Okay, Defensive Player of the Month goes to Toumani Camara for the Portland Trailblazers and Evan Mobley for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I must apologize. I believe the last news video, maybe second to last, I went over it was, I think, Defensive Player of the Week in this case for Camara. I had not yet caught wind of Portland being on the upswing. I have seen a good amount of games of them since. I've watched the Thinking Basketball video on Camara. Dude is a crazy good defender, and on top of that, his offense looks really good. So, yeah, Camara's great. I apologize for having a casual take. This is the problem with doing some of these videos, is sometimes I'm reacting to information that I just vaguely know of, and I have to give a definitive opinion, and that's just the way that it works. With that said, shout out to both of these players for winning Defensive Player of the Month. In the West, some of the other candidates were Lou Dort, Chris Dunn, Zubats, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Amen Thompson. And out East, it was Nick Claxton, Dyson Daniels, Isaiah Stewart, and Asar Thompson, and Miles Turner. Wow, we got both Thompson twins potentially in the Defensive Player of the Month conversation. It would be so sick if we managed to actually get that to happen. God, they're so good. I fucking love the Thompson twins. Coach of the Month goes to Mark Dagnall in Detroit with an 11-2 record, and the Detroit Pistons with JB Bickerstaff with a 9-3 record. Out west, some of the other candidates were Billups, Kerr, Michael Malone, and JJ Redick, and out east, Kenny Atkinson and Joe Mazzulla. No real surprises there. The Coach of the Year conversation this year is interesting. I'm very ride or die that it should be Kenny Atkinson, because I don't think there's a greater example of a team just completely flipping the script purely because of a coaching change. But, JJ Redick has a decent case. Mark Dagnall has a decent case. JB Bickerstaff has a decent case. Hell, I would argue Chauncey Billups has made a decent case as well. Probably a little too late after a really bad start to the year, but this has been one of the best years in terms of coaching coaching performance that I can think of, which is not really something that I actively think about, but like I have not had many years where I was more just actively impressed with how well a team is being coached than I have been lately, which I honestly feel. Here's a quick take for you. A regular thing that we get in our hot takes videos is that the coaches just don't matter that much. I feel like as the years are going on, the importance of coaching in the NBA has gone up as offensive systems have gotten more complicated. So having a guy who, like JJ Redick, who can be a fucking savant out there with his offensive system versus Darvin Ham, who writes LeBron shoot ball on the fucking whiteboard, that is a huge difference maker. So yeah. Shout out to the coaches around the league. They've been doing a fucking great job. The Warriors retire Andre Iguodala's number 9 jersey. He is, of course, the first player of this Warriors dynasty who will be getting his jersey in the rafters. Says a lot about how important he was in a non-statistical sense to this team, because his Warriors career numbers are going to... Let me check. Let me just look them up real quick, just out of curiosity. But I would wager he doesn't even average 10 points per game as a Warrior. But he obviously won Finals MVP with them. He fucking shouldn't have, just for the record. Absolutely had no business winning the award. But he was a key factor in them winning that series, no doubt. And yeah, so Golden State career with the Warriors: 6.7 points, 3.4 assists, 3.8 rebounds, 1.1 steals. 33% from 3, 48% from the field, only 50. Is that right? Oh no, that's 2-point percentage. I was about to say, you shot 59% from the line, brother. I knew he wasn't a great free throw shooter, 64%. All right, that's not even that much better. But yeah, Andre Iguodala, his defense, his willingness to come off of the bench, his leadership, buying into the system in the way that he did, putting his ego to the side, because when the Warriors signed Andre Iguodala, it was very much with the intention of making him the starter. And then I believe after just 1 year, Steve Kerr came in and changed that. He played 1 season starting for the Dubs, and then his minutes were reduced by 5 per game, and he came off of the bench, and you know what, man? He was fucking awesome. Just a huge key contributor. He got 2nd and 6th man of the year twice. I would argue that Iggy is one of the greater indicators of the flaw with the 6th man of the year award, because the fact that he never won one is very indicative of how much that award is just scoring contest. The TV died. This whole thing's falling apart. But what I'm willing to bet you, if we go to that 6th man of the year race, here it is. Jamal Crawford beat him in 2015, and Jamal Crawford beat him in 2016 or 2017 rather. This is why I hate Jamal Crawford, man. Fuck the 6th man of the year award. Should have gone to Iggy, but yes, all-time Warriors great, absolute legend. On the lower tier of like caliber of player that you would have retire, but it's not like there's a ton of rafters up in Golden State. I'm not going to harp on this too much, because there is literally the next video that is going to be coming out on this channel is going to be about the Jimmy Butler trade 1 month later. But there's been a lot of conversation about the Dubs resurging as a contender. I'll just lay my stake here. I think they are. I think they have a strong case for being the 2nd best team in the West. It's kind of between them and the Lakers for me right now. So yeah, are the Dubs true contenders? My answer, to keep it short, is yes, but there will be a much longer answer in tomorrow's video, the Jimmy Butler trade 1 month later. Make sure you guys tune in for that. You turned in for the Luka one. Holy shit, the Luka trade 1 month later is outperforming my Luka trade reaction when it actually fucking happened. Could not believe that. But speaking of, let's talk about the Lakers real quick. I talked about them and their contending status in that Luka trade 1 month later video. If you managed to miss it and you want to check that out. The most impressive game they've played thus far has been against the Denver Nuggets, where Luka scored 32 and they won 123-100. LeBron had 25, Austin Reeves had 23, Rui Hachimura had 21, and he left holding his left side with 10 minutes remaining. There was a play from that game where JJ Redick is just yelling at Rui to he just says go and points at the rim. And then Rui runs to the rim and Luka immediately finds him with a pass and he gets a layup out of it. Truly exceptional shit. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray had decent games, but Nikola Jokic had a really rough stretch because of how well LA defended them. The Lakers' defense has been phenomenal. Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves is a great offensive trio, so I think they're very much in the contender conversation, even if I am doubtful it happens this year. I think a retool this offseason, you get a true, really good five out there, and we are talking about a very, very dangerous team, especially if LeBron can maintain his level of play at all into the age of 41, which honestly, dude, there's been a degree of like memeage to suggesting that LeBron could play till he is 45. LeBron could play until he's fucking 50 if he wanted to. I'm dead serious. Deadly serious. If LeBron wants to be around for another decade, he can. And at that point, he can just tie a bow on the GOAT debate because he played for 30 fucking years. Kevin Garnett is apparently going to be joining the new Timberwolves front office. Ownership is changing hands, and apparently, according to Charlie Walters of the Pioneer Press, he said a little birdie says that Kevin Garnett will become a part of the Timberwolves front office as soon as it's official that Lauren Rodriguez get ownership. It's kind of brutal where Kevin Garnett loves the Timberwolves, but he hates the people running them. It's kind of how America works in a way. It's exactly how I feel about America. America's pretty chill, but goddamn, hate everybody associated with it. There's been an NBA nickname renaissance. This kind of just sparked from a meme from a Boston Celtics fan tweeting that Jason Tatum's nickname should be the Anomaly because he can handle the ball like someone shorter and can guard 1 through 5. I think that's actually not a terrible take. I don't hate that nickname at all. A lot of people clowned on him, but I was like, I think that's fair. There really are very few forwards throughout history who have the level of versatility and utility that Jason Tatum does. Like, I would say LeBron and Larry Bird are the only guys comparable to the level of versatility. Others joined in the trend, ironically, which drove Basketball Reference to actually add the nickname to Tatum's profile. Other fan bases soon followed, the general pattern being the followed by some noun which is related to confusion and bewilderment. Others include the onomatopoeia, Bam Adebayo, the Pythagorean theorem for pods, the big oxtail for Chet. That's not really the same format, but it's really fucking funny. The head of the table, Brunson, and the Odyssey for Paulo. The Odyssey is a hard-ass fucking name. All right, that's great. I love that. Like, the thing is, a lot of these names are jokes, but they're good. Like, I feel like as NBA fans, we have been sauceless with our nicknames in recent years. So if it has to be a meme that starts us actually giving players good nicknames, I'm perfectly okay with that. I would love if we called Paulo the Odyssey. That's just fucking great. It's unironically hard. Here's our top 10 that we found. Mobley, the predicament. That's another one. I like that. Evan Mobley's a predicament. He's hard as fuck to defend because he just plays unlike anybody else, and he's unstoppable as a defender. So that's a good name. Jalen Green, the ad hominem fallacy. I don't know what that means, but it sounds correct. SGA, the conundrum. Sharp, the abnormality. Lowry, the incongruity? What does that even mean, bro? Luca, the peculiarity. I can't fucking talk. Rob Dillingham, the paranormal activity. What the fuck does that even mean? Christian Brown, the eccentricity. He's eccentric. Jamal Murray, the riddle. That's funny. Like, the Riddler and the Joker are on the same team. Cade, the paradox. Tatum, the anomaly. Yeah, man. I like this. I like this genuinely. Most of these nicknames are pretty actually decent. Maybe not ride the same format constantly, but I fucks with it. Just to rapid fire some few bits of NBA tea, some bits of NBA drama. Tim Hardaway Sr., the all-star point guard, not his less good son, recently expressed on Gilbert's podcast that he wishes to go back and fuck up Tyrese Halliburton because he talks so much shit. And Tyrese replied, implying that the reason for Hardaway's comments is the recent rivalry between the Pistons and Pacers and the fact that Tyrese tends to completely bust Tim Hardaway's ass. So probably just pissed off Hardaway Jr. Not the worst Tim Hardaway Jr. quote. There are a couple that are substantially worse. Tim Hardaway Sr. His son, as far as I'm aware, isn't homophobic. The Nets are not bringing back Killian Hayes on a second 10-day contract, which makes sense because he's fucking terrible. Marchand Beauchamp has signed a 2-way contract with the Knicks. That's good because I actually think he could be rotation worthy on that team that is spread so thin. Steve Kerr pleaded for officials to stop calling traveling violations. I don't understand why we aren't teaching our officials to start calling travels, rather. I don't understand why we aren't teaching our officials to call travel in this league. I see 5 or 6 travels a game that aren't called. Serena Williams has joined the ownership group of the WNBA expansion team, the Toronto Tempo. The Dallas Mavericks organization continues to take shots at Luka Doncic, with the most recent example being them censoring him with a Mavericks logo in a now deleted promotional video. I meant to make a Little Rusty Buckets video about it, but it just kind of aged out of significance or relevance. Thank you, everybody else in the building, for being as loud as fuck at the end of this video as possible. According to Shams, the Suns and Kevin Durant are expected to work together on a trade to a contender this offseason. There will be a video on that later this week. Ty Jerome fined $25K for criticizing a ref. Ja Morant also fined $26K. Okay, that's just petty. Why'd you fine him $1,000 more? For throwing the ball into the stands, heaving it. Anthony Edwards fined $35K for not leaving the court after an ejection, and LeBron is set to reach 50,000 career points in his next game, including the regular season and playoffs combined. Also, I reacted to a Shannon Sharp take like it was serious when he was unserious. I did know that there was a degree of playing around with the take OKC, KFC, UFC, Lakers, and 5. I'm well aware that there is some, tongue-in-cheek nature to that, but I kind of made a mountain out of a molehill on that one, so I privated the video because people were making fun of me. Don't make fun of me, assholes. All right, that's the video. Thank you. Drop a like.